Hey everyone, welcome back to AI Insights, the podcast at the intersection of technology, humanity, and everything in between. I'm Fleur Prince.
And I'm Grania Poppin, and welcome back to season 4.
Dun, dun, dun,
We
dun.
Yeah, so now we've been doing this for 2 years, and we're on the 4th season, and we are so excited to share what we've been working on with you guys, and, we've been doing a lot of research, and we think that we're gonna bring a lot of new insights and unique material, and we can't wait to get started. When we first launched this podcast, AI was a board-level conversation happening in PowerPoint. By season 2, organizations were running pilots. By season 3, the question had shifted to should we, to why isn't it working, how can we make it work, and what's next. And season 4 is where we pursue those answers. We're going to be covering the AI landscape, and we're going to seek nearly to interrupt it. We're going to be looking at things from an executive level and trying to deliver real insights that are practical to everyday life, drawing on our experiences both as consultants. I am an AI governance consultant. Fleur is also a consultant if you want to.
Yeah, I'm a consultant, so what I do is I help with AI tools and community building. So I advise all about that because it's a skill on its own, and I'm there to help you out.
Exactly. And then I currently do international governance advisory. And I also provide advisory on specifically legal technology and what that looks like. So, yeah, we're excited to just kind of dive in and give you guys a perspective on what's been happening in AI the past month.
Yeah, so today we're actually starting with a big one, AI economics. Is the productivity revolution actually happening, and who's capturing the grades? But first, the news. Always the important part of our podcast.
Yeah. So
So,
three main stories caught our eye this week, and the first one is ChatGPT being introduced on Apple CarPlay. So this is another expansion of OpenAI, which is already extremely dominant, although they had some losses to Claude in recent times. But it's very interesting that it's being integrated, not only into homes, not only into like Amazon Alexas, phones, computers, but now into cars.
yeah, I mean, like, can you imagine hands-free? It's on the dashboard. iOS 26.4 is all you need to like get it on, and just saying like, "Hey, ChatGPT, I want to know how the model at Claude works." I'm just saying a
Yeah,
weird question that you might pop into your head while you're driving.
Yeah, it is very interesting, and on it, like, from a kind of governance perspective, it's going to be compelling to see how these sorts of situations are regulated. Actually, in Ireland, we had an incredibly recent court case where a barrister was driving his car, and he was
Mm-hmm.
on a phone call conversation, and he was pulled over by multiple Garda, arrested, and then sent to the criminal courts because they were like, "Look, you're on your phone while driving, it's illegal." However, his defense was, "I was using a hands-free dashboard. So I shouldn't be persecuted. I wasn't actually on my phone. I was using a hands-free dashboard." And he represented himself in court. So we don't actually have a verdict on this yet. It's a 2025 case because he judicially reviewed the matter because the judge then said you should have paid attention in school. Otherwise you would have paid attention to the rules. Yeah, yeah. So bit of controversy
Okay,
there.
interesting that the judge comes with that.
Yeah, yeah. So we don't have a substantive ruling, but ChatGPT being introduced on CarPlay, obviously we're going to see a lot more of people using these hands-free environments. However, there's going to be potentially legal repercussions of that, and we're seeing that in Ireland as recently as 2025 and potentially an expansion as we're seeing with this new innovation.
No, true. I mean, it doesn't have navigation access yet, but according to you, the door is open.
Yeah, exactly. And then
But also,
And then additionally, Google Gemini is already in Android Auto and Tesla is running Grok. So the car dashboard is now yet another battleground for AI loyalty, and Siri is losing. Another potential losing player is Claude, who does not have similar links to the car industry.
no, true. I mean, did you hear about the Claude code leak?
I didn't. I did, and Anthropic has accidentally leaked the source code for its Claude Code agent. Over 8,000 cloned repositories on GitHub before they could contain it.
Yeah, it's just like it went poof, God.
Yeah.
Now everyone has it. So like
Yeah.
their whole thing that made them unique is now like on the open internet because people just started. That's the one thing about GitHub. You could just press fork
Yeah, that's true.
and it's yours. But I mean, also like here's the kicker as well. The AI assisted developers that rewrote the code in like multiple languages to bypass copyright takedowns. So this exposed actually Anthropic's internal architecture right as they were pushing for their 380 billion IPO evaluation. I mean, the security implications from top-tier AI lips are significant, but it's just how did this even happen?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's super interesting from a governance perspective as well, because it demonstrates that there are workarounds to this supposedly, kind of sacrosanct IP. Here, we're seeing that with regards to multiple languages, which is incredibly like compelling, and
Mhm.
we'll see how that holds up in court. But additionally, just as you're saying, the security implications are significant. I mean, from an economic perspective, but also, I mean, as AI gets increasingly intertwined with national defense strategies, not really applicable for Ireland, which is a military neutral country, but the United States, definitely not militarily neutral, and has has just opened up calls from it was 2025. They opened up calls from each major tech company asking what their strategic positioning regarding AI in the military should be. And Claude put forward a representation, that was heard and, acted upon. And they're moving forward with ChatGPT on different kind of military endeavors. So it really demonstrates that there's going to be there it is absolutely necessary that we take precautions, that governance is imposed in these
Mhm.
circumstances to ensure that we don't have potential leaks that could have devastating circumstances.
No, agreed. And I'm definitely sure that well, the US is using OpenAI. The rest of the world is now using Claude
Yeah.
to up gear since everyone got it for free.
I would also say that, like, the entire like, every business professional that I know in the United States of America is using Claude, and it's evident, I mean, just from conversation, but also when people send you briefs, it's almost always in Claude's format, like, people don't even tweak the format.
True.
Like, that's another thing that's happening is, like, like, professionalism and the norms for professionalism are starting to be shaped by AI even, and, like, Claude, definitely I've seen, and just the amount of briefs and that I receive, and like briefs, because as I work as a governance consultant, I'll have clients try
Mhm.
to provide me with, what they've done in the situation. People will even feed that into Claude and then give it to me. So again, I'm just dealing with all these Claude documents. But yes, I think it's the US military that, really is preferring OpenAI for right now. But we'll see how that develops.
No,
Also,
true, but
sorry, it also begs the question, would the Netherlands prefer OpenAI, or is that now claimed by the US? Would the Netherlands prefer, Claude? Would the Netherlands prefer Gemini?
mhm.
Are any of those kind of models taking a front step in different countries within the EU?
I mean, what I've seen in like in Europe, just in general, that there's a preference for AI models that have like ethical boundaries. So when working with a model, that you really want to know like where did the data come from? How was it trained? Were the people who trained it? Because you remember the story that we talked about the people OpenAI hired in Kenya,
Mhm.
where they actually ended up with like huge mental problems and even PTSD. That is
Yeah.
something that's now being taken into account in Europe when work with AI models. Has any of this been thought of? And also something you have to provide to show like, hey,
Yeah.
this is actually how I built my system.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. Another thing, kind of from the compliance perspective, that I can put forward as well is that data privacy absolutely pivotal in Europe and where the data centers are. Like if your data centers are located in America, there's different considerations. So, anyways, all
No,
fascinating.
exactly. Also, you're actually so. By the way, like I also told you, I also consulting now on AI tools. You're actually obligated to know where your data is going. Also, of your users, but
Yeah.
also like you told earlier about where it's stored. But you actually have to. It has to be so. Anything you collect of a European citizen, it has to be stored on a European server. It cannot just go to an American server without their
Yeah.
permission.
Yeah. And then also the EU AI Act, which is kind of where a lot of these requirements are centralized, is going to be imposing penalties very soon. At the
Mm-hmm.
gradually coming into force, we're going to start seeing a lot more penalties as, kind of people not complying ramps up and then enforcement ramps up, etc. Moving forward from that, our last piece of news for now is Google Gemma 4.
Yeah, so Google dropped Gemma 4. It's built on Gemini 3 tech for model sizes up to like 31 bay dense model. But also, like, the real story is actually the license. So I don't know if you saw this, but the Apache 2.0, it's an unrestricted commercial use.
Yeah, and then with Chinese models like Qwen dominating open source recently, Google is giving developers legal certainty that Meta's El Llama lacked. So this is a strategic move and not just a product launch. And we've kind of been discussing, I mean, all throughout season 3, we kind of moved our perspective, beyond just this is what's happening now and like into the realm of, this is the strategic implication for what's happening now. And just as much as it is like frontier technology and frontier technology development, it's also economics and strategics within economics. So, it is very fascinating that this decision is being put forward. And I would even link it back to something that we've explored previously, which is how DeepSeek being open source really shifted the market. If you remember, like NVIDIA's stocks crashed, plummeted like below anything when that was released because, it had all these different usage requirements and kind
Mhm.
of we see this international interplay and all these different strategic moves happening because of it.
No, true. But also, it's actually good now for us to move to our main topic.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this is actually going to be an economics deep dive for all our listeners. So the assumption most executives actually have locked in is that AI will deliver GDP scale transformation within this business cycle. Goldman Sachs even says there's a 7% raise, and McKinsey is talking about like trillions. Like,
However,
what?
Nobel However, laureate Darren Alcamigo at MIT puts it at 1.1 to 1.6 GDP lift over 10 years. The gap comes down to one thing, which is how many tasks can AI actually automate profitably. His estimate was around 5%. And this is really relevant, just in everyday business practice. And,
Mm-hmm.
in discussing this, we're trying to bring insights provide you insights that you can bring actually into your workplace and kind of have a proactive discussion. I know I've had a lot of different discussions with clients, you know, all of this AI, the key word is AI bubble. Is AI a bubble? How much can we actually automate? What is this progress going to look like? And,
Will
are
it
people,
explode? Who knows?
yeah,
Or not explode per se. Maybe not a good word on the podcast.
which is what's going to happen. And, we kind of see this contrast here. We see Goldman Sachs, we see McKinsey. We also see the United States of America investing like billions of dollars into AI innovation, as with the same with Europe, as the same with China. However, we're also seeing Nobel laureates and different researchers and also just everybody, just people talking about how it's a bubble. And we see the
Mm-hmm.
numbers from Darren, who says that 1.1 to 1.6 GDP lift over 10 years. That is his estimate. He thinks that's all we're going to see. So, Fleur, what is your opinion on that contrast?
Well, I think the framing here is important. I mean, he sees we're using AI too much for automation and not enough for like giving workers expertise and information. We have the direction, I think, wrong here.
Yeah. So then that begs the question of where are the gains actually going? So Q1 2026 data shows value concentrating in tech hubs and AI native firms, however, not distributing across incumbents bolting AI onto legacy systems. So what does that look like in practice? For example, now I saw it on LinkedIn actually just this week, so weekly news. There is an AI native law firm being started in America where AI agents
Mm-hmm.
do the majority of the offloading of work and kind of client material. However, conversely, and this kind of goes into what Darren at MIT is saying about this smaller increase, that AI native law firm then had to hire a paralegal. So, supposedly, an only AI law firm still has to hire a paralegal, another human, to do work because AI cannot automate everything. So that again begs the question. The questions that any organization should be asking is, what side of the gap are we on? Are we native, or are we bolting AI onto legacy systems?
No, and I mean also here the talent signal reinforces this. High skill AI augmented workers are seeing like a 15 to 20% wage premiums, but also entry level roles are exposed sectors are just stagnating at this point. I mean, both dynamics affect how you hire and retain. I mean, I've seen like entry level positions disappear overnight because
Yeah.
everything is automated, and they're like, "Yeah, we only need our seniors," and I'm like, "Yeah, but at a certain point, those seniors are gonna retire."
Yeah, and actually we saw that really poignantly with London, where McKinsey and a lot of the Big 4 consulting stripped a lot of their entry-level roles and then went back and put them back up because they weren't able to successfully onboard AI automation of a lot of different tasks. So again, we're seeing this push and pull. We're seeing AI native firms that aren't able to fully automate everything. We're also seeing AI like bolted on to, non-workable use cases, but simultaneously, we're seeing all these different gains in productivity. We're seeing all this money poured in. We're seeing all this innovation we're being produced, and more importantly, we're seeing society change. When I Google something right here, right now, when I Google something, even in when I'm working for my consulting within my consulting capacity, when I'm Googling something, the first thing that comes up is an AI overview. And originally, your eye just goes to it initially. You know what I mean? So that's going to shape
Mhm.
how you perceive things and, what you say and what the direction you end up going down. And it's just a reflection on how, no matter like what this contrast looks like, AI is still changing society. So what we're trying to bring to you today is what does that mean for your business and what does that mean for you as an individual in the broader economy? And where we're seeing real measurable wins is logistics and supply chain. Targeted AI deployment is delivering 20 to 30% efficiency gains, not projections, actual real results that are showing up in cost structures.
No, true, but also like the augmentation versus like automation split matters enormously here. I mean, augmentation focused deployments are like delivering 2 to 3 times more productivity lifts, but that just doesn't show up as the headcount reduction on the spreadsheet. I mean, if you look around at the 1.2 times the ROI case for the augmentation here, it's pretty much stronger.
And then from a governance angle, this also raises workforce obligation questions that regulators are starting to pay attention to, something that we're going to be digging into properly in governance episodes later in the season.
I can't wait for that. Like,
Yeah.
AI and governance is amazing. Like, I love how this is all sorry, just a little short bit. Like, AI and governance, like, they were on the forefront here because it's never been done before. Like,
Yeah.
I think the AI Act is the first living document that actually is allowed to be changed because AI is going so fast and it cannot be solidified.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because you're already working with frontier technology. You're already working with technology that literally, and this is such a major thing that we've seen through this podcast. We're working with technology that changes week by week. When we're doing the podcast on a weekly basis, we have literally weekly transformations that we can provide. This has changed. This is completely changed. That is completely changed. For example, in season 2, Claude would not really have been on the radar, or rather not on the radar to the extent which it is now, especially with regard, not just to like innovation, but also a broader like economic standpoint. But, you kind of have something that's changing that fast. And then you have the regulations, which is changing not only just as fast, but, kind of has this interplay with the technology itself and can really shape the direction that our society moves down. I would actually just say on one last point before we move to the strategic takeaways, that there was a court case very recently where a woman was able to win in a lawsuit against Meta,
Mhm.
that Meta had from a very young age gotten her addicted to social media platforms, and this had negatively affected her life. So that represents regulation, right? That's a court case ruling that Meta unlawfully caused harm to this woman by virtue of getting her addicted to a platform. So this introduces a new realm of responsibility for companies and specifically addictive platforms. This is immediately applicable to AI. One of the earliest things that we kind of considered is the relationship between
Mhm.
human nature and AI and people using AI like a friend or being addicted or, being addicted to it insofar as they need it for validation or support or, can't get off of it. We've discussed the case of a child dying by suicide in Florida because his AI system told him to. So again, we're going to see this interplay and this racing ahead sort of phenomena with the technology itself and also the regulation, and we're going to be able to explain both. So now moving on to strategic takeaways, Floor, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, what does this like practically mean? I think we're looking at three things here. So, what I wanted to talk about was know where you sit on the value of concentration curve. I mean, are you an AI native with a data infrastructure to capture gains, or are you an incumbent with integration debt to fix first? That diagnosis changes everything.
You also need to forecast the floor and not the ceiling. You need to stress test your AI business case, and it only works at a 7 if it only works at a 7% GDP uplift, it's not a robust case. And then number 3, you need to watch the task curve and not the hype cycle. The next step change requires AI to move from easy to verify tasks to hard judgment intensive ones. That transition is not imminent or inherent, and building strategy around it arriving in 18 months is a risk.
Yeah, I think this is a very actually good strategic takeaways from our episode as we're going through it. But also, we're out of time.
Yeah.
So that means next episode we're going into deployment. So why 85% of AI pilots are still failing on RIO, what successfully ones have in common, but also what the shift to agentic orchestration actually means for how you build your systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And just briefly going over what we've covered today. So, we've looked at 3 recent news articles and then kind of explored their implications from our perspectives, as consultants. We also took a look at just the economics of AI and the $1 million question and the elephant in the room, which is AI a bubble? And what are the numbers saying about AI in the economy?
Yeah, so to find us, we are now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, we're on Deezer, we're on Amazon Music, and we also now have our very own newsletter. You can find it on our LinkedIn page. You can subscribe it. You'll get it for free every week. On Sunday, you will get a new edition just to stay ahead of what's happening in AI. So you can read it, love it, post it, share it.
And
But
if this was useful, definitely share it with somebody that is making AI investment decisions, which is genuinely the best way to support the show. Also, again, if you have any questions about what we're saying, feel free to reach out to us. We obviously love talking. That's why we do a podcast. We'll be happy to, discuss anything with anyone that's listening. And thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
do 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 do.